The Nassau Institute proudly presents its inaugural Economics of Liberty lecture series. The lectures were conducted May 2nd and 3rd, 2011 in Nassau, Bahamas by Dr. Richard Ebeling, Professor of Economics at Northwood University in Midland, Michigan, USA. The Nassau Institute is grateful for Dr. Ebeling's dedication and assistance and great teaching ability. A special thank you is extended to the Templeton Foundations for their generous support, without which this event would not have been possible. We also thank the College of the Bahamas and Professor Randy Forbes for hosting this student lecture series in the new Harry C. Moore Library auditorium. Please enjoy Professor Ebeling as he discusses the economics of liberty.
Our topic for this session is called the Government Regulation and the Interventionist State. I wanted to mention is that you were sent or you were given these packets of readings. And I just wanted to emphasize, for example, what we talked about in our last session about socialism. This is a complement to it to sort of clarify the ideas, extend some of the ideas. I talked about, is this piece among this packet of readings, why socialism is impossible. The theme, part of the theme of what we're going to be discussing in this hour is from this reading, The Free Market and the Interventionist State. And then finally, our last lecture after this one, before the end of our day, Public Choice and the Political Process, is related to this article, Why Government Grows, the Modern Democratic Dilemma. So these readings are meant to be complements or supports or additions to some of the things that, obviously time is that scarce resource, given the limited amount of things that I could try to discuss in full detail with our time here each hour. Okay, now, in talking about the government regulation and the interventionist state, we have to understand a couple of things. Regulation. Okay, regulation, to regularize, to have standards or procedures. Now, if we understand the word regulation like this, it doesn't imply anything about the role of government, or even the need for government. All of us have standards, benchmarks, procedures. Every business does. Quality controls, standards and procedures for the business to operate, requirements in terms of skills and abilities of the employees. There is nothing in any walk of life, and certainly not the business world, that does not have regulation. And I'm not talking about government regulation. I'm talking about the fact that every business, every enterprise, every company has standards and procedures and rules to assure efficient outcomes and safety and quality. Otherwise, you don't know what's happening every day. They're these sort of operating procedures. The question is it necessary for another layer of regulation to be superimposed on the private sector in the form of government regulation or government controls? Now, this is obviously a very big topic, but I sort of want to approach it from a number of ways and directions. One conception of government regulation can be either regulation of prices or regulation of production. So there can be price controls, or production regulations or controls. Let me suggest that the worst of these forms of government intervention and regulation, in my view, I think most economists probably would agree, are price controls. Price controls prevent markets from telling the truth. How many of you have had an economics course? Don't be shy. Be brave. I'm not going to give you a pop quiz. So you got nervous there for a second, right? A pop quiz. No pop quiz. But so let me just remind you of the inherent problems with all government controls of prices, right? This is all going to be familiar to you. There's quantity, there's price, there's the demand for a good, here's the supply of a good. And where the market competitively establishes the price, determines that place at which the quantity demanded is tending to equal the quantity supplied. It's called equilibrium or market clearing, right? Words from the past that might, jingle somewhere. As much as you try to forget them, I understand this. Now, what's the inherent problem when government tries to control and regulate prices? The inherent problem is that if the market doesn't set the price that is tending to coordinate that which people demand with that which people are willing and able to supply, then an inherent imbalance is created, right? If the government sets the price here, you'll find a situation where the amount supplied, found profitable to be supplied by producers, is greater than the amount or quantity demanded by consumers. And this creates a surplus. Surely this is a wastage. We are wasting resources, making more of a product than consumers are willing to acquire or purchase at that price. It also can create unemployment. Again, and this is probably true to virtually all economists across the political spectrum. You could take an economic textbook by someone who's perhaps more to the left on the political spectrum or one more politically on the right, and read their basic economics textbooks. And there's probably one thing that most economists agree on, that if you set a wage above the market clearing wage, you're going to cause unemployment, right? If this was the labor market, and this is the market wage, and the government now sets this as, let's say, a minimum wage. No one may legally be employed for less than the government legal minimum wage. Other things held given, what you're going to generate is unemployment among the very people who you want to help. In that type of example, for instance, they'll often be said, well, look at the market, the wage is so low, businessmen seem to be greedy, it's too selfish. They won't pay the workers a living wage, a fair wage. Well, there ought to be a law. So they pass a minimum wage law. Thou shalt not hire anyone for employment in your enterprise without paying them minimum wage 2 here instead of any hypothetical market wage. But the point is that what you're going to do is you're going to generate a situation where some of the very low-income people you wish to assist will now find themselves priced out of the market. Now, the logic should be very simple here. The logic should be very simple. You go into the supermarket, and I use the kind of example I did with one of the other talks earlier today. You're going down the aisles in the supermarket, you have your little cart, and you buy breakfast cereal, okay? And normally you buy a box of, let's say, Cheerios or Wheaties, and it says $3 a box. And at $3 a box, you tend to buy maybe two or three boxes a week. You're a big breakfast eater. Well, now you're doing your shopping sometime after that, and you see that now as you're going down the aisle, the breakfast cereal is not $3 a box, but $9 a box. Are you going to keep buying the same amount of breakfast cereal as you did before? Well, assuming that your budget hasn't changed, right, the same number of units of money in your pocket, if you're now going to keep buying the same 3 boxes of breakfast cereal at $9 a box, it's now going to cost you, what, $27 instead of the $9 that 3 boxes used to cost you when it was $3 a box. So instead of $9, it's going to cost you $27. And again, assuming that the money in your pocket hasn't changed, where's that extra $18 to buy the same 3 boxes going to come from? You're going to have to cut back your expenditure on something else in the supermarket. Now you're going to have to ask yourself, is it worth spending $18 less on other things that you value to be able to keep eating the 3 boxes of breakfast cereal? And I don't think it's unreasonable, fairly commonsensical, that some of us would say, you know, it's not worth it. I'm either going to buy only 2 boxes of breakfast cereal and cut back spending $9 someplace else, or I'm going to only buy 1 box of breakfast cereal for the same $9 that I used to be able to buy 3 for and not cut back my expense.